Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Football Dattitude Friday, episode 163, September the 7th. My friend Larry Holder is here with me in studio, in our virtual studio, that is, to talk about football, real football. Larry, it's here.
It didn't happen in the preseason? What are you talking about? Look,
They had a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Huge storyline. Like the Ravens hadn't lost a preseason game in like 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. I mean, that was huge, right?
Well, I'm glad we don't have to talk about that anymore because that's finally over with. Football started last night for a lot of people, and it's funny because I got the comment. Obviously, anyone who's watched any of my NFL previews knows I think the Detroit Lions are, I think they're a little overrated. They're a trendy team. I don't like trendy teams when you're talking about betting teams. I'm not going to bet any team that Joe Q Public is all over. And well before last night, Joe Q Public was all over the Detroit Lions. And, so today I'm getting hate mail. I think it's hilarious. They were commenting on my video. So now what? From one game. I love it. One game out of 272 or whatever it is in the NFL season are already getting blasted here, Larry.
Well, do I think that last night's win is big for Detroit? Sure. Is it catastrophic for Kansas City? No. Look, I already know people are going to be nitpicking the win. Kadarius Toney looked like he was on the fake. No Travis Kelce.
No Chris Jones.
Right. Definitely no Chris Jones either. He's watching in a suite, and honestly, good for him because he's underpaid. So I don't really blame him for holding out and wanting more money because he deserves it. But you still got to win the game, and you beat the Chiefs on the road in first game of the season, marquee matchup. So I got to give the Lions credit. I'm not totally sold on them say they're going to the Super Bowl, but did I buy into that they were an improving team? Yes. Do I think that what they're doing is something that maybe some teams can stop? Sure. But I do think that they're on the right track in the right direction. But do I think that maybe, say, someone like the Packers could win that division still, or someone like
100%.
Minnesota could still win that division? Yes, I agree. So it's not close shut. Oh my gosh, let's crown the Lions. No, but I do think it's a huge win for their franchise, for their fan base, and I'm curious to see if they can build upon that because look, that win is still like the way that they were trending last year. So they've actually that momentum from last year to this year. Look, that did carry over, and they have some of the right pieces going in Detroit.
If you want to crown them, go ahead and crown them. I mean, that's what our old friend Danny Green used to say. Look, today's going to be fun. We are going to spend today, kind of like we used to spend the old days back on Fridays back in the day on the Black and Gold Today show. We'll have maybe some pixie dust flying around later on. Who knows? I might force Larry into making a pick or two. But, today is going to be a lot about the Saints. It's going to be Saints-Titans, obviously, in the Superdome on Sunday as the Saints get started. They are 3-point favorites, juiced towards the Saints. That was 3.5 earlier in the week. So it's going to be a fun day. Let the Derek Carr era begin. We're going to certainly lead off with the Saints, but we are also going to talk about the NFL and week one. And that's what Larry Holder does for The Athletic. Larry Holder covers the NFL for The Athletic. We're glad to have him here today and hopefully every Friday during the NFL season as we talk again, not just about the Saints, but we will talk about what's going on in the NFL. And obviously we let off with Chiefs and Lions. All right, let's get into Saints-Titans and some of our thoughts here, Larry, and the Derek Carr era finally getting started. I know that's what fans are thinking about right now. By the way, if you want to comment, if you have a question or comment, please feel free to leave it if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, and we'll be glad to show it on the screen, and we'll answer it here during the show. But what do you think of Derek Carr? Obviously, an upgrade from what the Saints have had the last 2 years. He's not Drew Brees. Drew Brees is gone, and he's never coming back. But he can bring some semblance of stability to the quarterback position for this football team.
Well, I will say Drew Brees wasn't Drew Brees until he got to New Orleans and under the offense. But and when Drew Brees came in 2006, he didn't exactly have all-star pieces. I mean, they had to build together. Now, Derek Carr doesn't have 4 years to build together. I mean, I know the Saints got to the NFC Championship game in 2006 and then fell off. But this team is more ready-made to win now, and you needed someone like Derek Carr. And I keep saying it. People ask me expectations for him. I say ceiling for him would be if he was number 10 on a top 10 list. I think that is the ceiling for him. Now, the floor isn't that low either. So that's the thing. Like, if you have Derek Carr and say he is a top half of the league quarterback, that's probably where expectations could be. I keep throwing up the name of Kirk Cousins. Like, I look at those two as basically the same guy. And, can Carr have some similarities to Drew in terms of style? Yes. You want him to be accurate with the football. I do think Derek Carr has a better arm than Drew Brees had in the latter years. And so I think Derek Carr can actually get the football downfield, even though some markets, probably his older one, teased that he couldn't do it and try to get the ball to Devontae Adams and players like that. But I do think that he has the ability to open things up. And that's what you need. And also, I keep bringing back this point in a lot of times when I talk about the Saints, that it also goes to the Saints defense is probably one of the better defenses that Derek Carr will be playing alongside than he's been with the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders defense has been bad over the years so many times. The Saints have a good complement, so it's not, say, all on Derek Carr's shoulders. And so I think that's a big plus for him to feel comfortable, kind of do his thing, not have to maybe take so many chances, which last year, that offense that they ran asked him to take more chances, and his completion percentage showed it. It was as low as it'd been maybe since his rookie year. So I think that Derek Carr comes in, solidifies the offense. And look, I think Tennessee's a good early test. They're not a bad team, but they're not a great team. So I think that if Derek Carr can get off on the right foot, I think there's definitely some positive momentum you can build off of this one.
At the same time, Larry, though, I mean, people forget that he threw for over 4,000 yards in 4 seasons. And 2 years ago, threw for 4,800 yards. I mean, talk about, just less than 200 yards shy of a 5,000-yard season. I mean, it's easy to forget that. And he's going to encounter some of the same things here in New Orleans, I think, that he encountered in Vegas. It wasn't that long ago where the Saints had a dominant offensive line. And now, you look at rankings among some of the services like yours and, Pro Football Focus and RotoWire, and the Saints offensive line is anywhere from ranked 26th to I've seen 31st. So, I mean, this is what the problem he had in Vegas. So, I mean, you wonder almost for his personal thing, it's great to be back with Dennis Allen, but why he would even want to come here?
Well, they paying him to be a starting
quarterback.
All right.
They're paying him $160 million over 4 years. That'll make
they paid him to be a middle of the road starting quarterback, and he couldn't even do that anymore with Las Vegas, but even though they moved on to Jimmy Garoppolo, look, his numbers are actually been better than Carr's, even though you look at him as more of a game manager, but still, I think those any O-line ratings that has the Saints down at the bottom, I think that's deceiving. I don't see the Saints as that. Now, if they're, again, health has been a huge issue. We all know that. And if they're healthy, I think they are middle of the pack offensive line. That's good. Here's the thing.
Fine. If they end up being a middle of the pack offensive line, you're super thrilled if you're a Saints fan.
Right. Because that would mean, say, Ryan Ramczyk could play more like Ryan Ramczyk. Eric McCoy would be a good piece at center. Means Trevor Penning is what you drafted for, and your guard play in the middle. Look, this is a big year for Cesar Ruiz, contract year, and who knows what's happening at the other left at the other
Hurst/Pete.
Right. You just want someone not to be a turnstile there. So let's or commit penalties. So and I think a big key though too is if the Saints can run the football well. I mean, they haven't run it really that well in the last couple of years. We know they're going to be without Kamara early. Jamal Williams, look, he's a 4 yards per carry guy, kind of right at that clip. So if he does that, that's productive in the NFL, and he could score along the goal line. That's huge too. Look, anything, if you can mix and match run game with the pass game and the offensive line can be solid, that's good. Like, that's the thing. Saints, the better part of the football for the Saints right now is the defense. If the offense can be solid, put up more than 20 points a game, they could put up 24 points a game, 25 points a game. They will win more games than they did last year.
And you see the numbers on the screen, as as Larry pointed out, it's a little busy down there, but if we'll see, maybe we'll work on it, maybe we'll change.
Let me read them. It helps refresh.
Well, I mean, 19th, the Saints were the 19th ranked running offense last year, and I think that only gets better. I think this is the best shape they've been in running wise in a while. You talked about Jamal Williams when Alvin Kamara comes back, but I think Kendra Miller showed a lot in the preseason that he can be. We joke about preseason, but a guy like that, a rookie coming in, I think needed to be able to show something, and he did, in my opinion. So I liked what I saw from Kendra Miller. I think the Saints can improve on that, and I think they certainly can improve on their passing offense. So if their overall offense gets up to somewhere around 10 or 12, and their defense can stay somewhere near where it is, they've got to improve on their running defense, 24th in the NFL. But if they can stay anywhere near, they've been in the top 7 for 3 years in a row, I think they're in decent shape.
Oh, I totally agree. And, look, we're talking about their overall season aspect, and they have a winnable schedule. If the offense can kind of get going early and the defense can, I don't need them to be 5th, but let them be a top 10 defense, actually create takeaways. I mean, that would be huge because the Saints certainly lacked that last year. And so it's all there for the making. And to me, if there's a team that missed the playoffs last year that has the best shot to get to the playoffs this year, it's the Saints.
Yeah.
The Jets are probably the other one. So, it's there. It's there for them.
I hate the fact that, and I said this in my preview, it finally ran 32 team previews done. The Saints were the last one I ran this morning. And when I made my prediction of the Saints and said 11-6, I did so with hesitation because for the second year in a row, I'm with all the other media members, my cohorts across the, who cover the Saints. And I hate that everyone is on the Saints again. So, but
I will say that's not the case nationally. A lot are, but there's enough people out there, Buzz, that think, and I agree the biggest threat to them in their division is Atlanta. So I think
I disagree with that. So
okay,
I think it's Carolina.
Okay, why?
Because I think that the Carolina defense is, if you look at the past 4 or 5 years, that I think last year was an anomaly for the Carolina defense not being as good as they had been. Now, obviously, Steve Wilkes is gone, so that's going to change things for them. But I think their defense is in line to be getting back to being a top 10 kind of defense. And I love Bryce Young. And I know it's hard for a rookie quarterback to come in and be solid in his first year, but they have just as an easy schedule as the Saints do, as the Falcons do. And I think if they can get past, they have a tough road early on, but I think if they can get past that, I think Carolina is a 10-win kind of team. And I do not believe in Desmond Ridder at all. Besides that, I think that people are as good as Bijan Robinson is for the Falcons. I think that the depth at receiver for the Falcons is not good. I mean, once you get past Drake London and Kyle Pitts, 2 great receivers, don't get me wrong, but I think they're in a world of hurt after that. I mean, so I am not believing in the Falcons at all. I think their defense will be a little bit better, but they're going to have to prove to me that Desmond Ridder can actually do something.
Well, look, Arthur Smith to me is going to say, hey, remember how I got the Titans to win divisions as their offensive guy, and what did I do? Ran the football. And I think they have you could talk about Bijan Robinson, but Tyler Algier, look, he's someone who can run the football. I don't disagree
with that.
Well, he was one of the most prolific runners in the last 5 weeks of last season in the league. And they got Bijan Robinson, who I think can be a multi-weapon. Look, I think Cordero Patterson can still make some things happen there.
33 years old now.
Okay, good. You don't have to use him like 700 snaps. Like, you can sprinkle him in, and he doesn't have to be as prolific. And I don't think Atlanta's defense is going to stink. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah, I think they're going to be better than they have been because they have stunk. There's no.
I'm not saying that I think Atlanta's going to win the division. I'm just saying that I think that's the Saints' biggest competition.
Well, from the gambling side of things and from the betting, and I know you don't look at it that way, but
Oh, I do enough. Look, I publish stuff every week, updated odds on our site, MVP awards. So no, I look at it more than you think, my friend.
well, the Panthers, I think, are the best value in the division, no matter how you look at it. They're plus 500, which means they are 5-1 to win the division. The Saints are basically even money to win the division. So if you're looking for, I think the Saints are going to win the division. But if I'm going to place a bet on who's going to win the division, I'd rather put my money on Carolina at 5-1.
I agree with you there. Yeah, that's in you terms. You're looking at value and that. And could Carolina jump up and look? If Bryce Young plays well, they're going to be good. Like if Miles Sanders fits in well and runs it like he did last year in Philadelphia, they could be good. I don't know the receivers really at Carolina. I mean, I only feel like I know Adam Thielen. Who else? DJ Shark. Okay, he could be
Terrace Marshall.
Right. What have I seen from him since LSU? That's, and he was the third wheel at LSU. So, but like it's all hinging on Bryce Young. Like if Bryce Young
no doubt about that,
jump off and be good early, then this is a division that can be had. And in a betting sense, like you're saying, I agree. Like that is a good value bet for that division.
I will definitely say this about the NFC South because of their schedules. I mean, I see a lot of people, not just in the local media, but just around saying, because last year the Tampa Bay won the division with an 8-9 record, that it's going to stink again. And that, 8-9 is not 10. I don't know if 10 wins is going to win this division this year. The division itself is I'm not going to say they're going to be much better, but because of the schedules that they're playing, their records are going to be much better. I think it's going to take at least 10, maybe 11 wins to win this division. And, Larry, just showing the Saints schedule because I have it ready. But I mean, who's the best quarterback on this list? I mean,
Trevor Lawrence.
It's got to be after Trevor Lawrence, and say even if you want to put Jared Goff in the mix and Kirk Cousins in the mix. So those are your three: Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, and Kirk Cousins. Other than that, who are we talking about? Ryan Tannehill, and old Matthew Stafford, Daniel Jones. I mean,
Justin Fields could be tricky.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not in the Justin Fields camp. I get it. I get why people love him. But to me, this it's hard not to pick the Saints with this schedule, but I'm not going gung-ho like I did last year. I mean, last year I said there was no way that the Saints weren't going to win more than 7 games. I mean, it was 7.5 early last summer. I'm like, to me, that was like the easiest bet in the history of sports gambling. And then that you get proven once again, there is no sure thing in gambling.
Yeah, easy bet for Vegas. They took everybody's money.
So yeah, absolutely. Nobody bet that under. I mean, let's get real. I mean, that was like free money. They were saying nothing. There is no free money. Anyway, finishing up on the Saints. I do like, and I want to talk about their defense a little bit before we move on and talk about the NFL. I know you got to run early this morning. The Saints ranked 5th in defense. It's still basically Dennis Allen's baby. Is there any reason to think? And look, there's a lot of turnover in the defensive front. We saw David Onyemata leave. Shai Tuttle's gone. Caden Ellis is gone from at linebacker, and there's some new guys coming in along the front. You think the Saints defense is still a top 7 kind of unit?
I think they can be. I think what they did is they got better run defenders than what they had toward the end of last year. Like, I think Kalen Saunders is a better run defender. I think Nathan Shepard is a better run defender. So, they don't have to play 80% of the snaps. If they play 40% of the snaps and you get some more pass rushers in the middle. Look, I think Brian Brzee, I thought we saw him growing as a player. So that's a good sign. So I do think that they certainly addressed a weakness, and they didn't make these big splash free agent moves, draft picks, but I do think they added a lot of solid pieces. And as long as you're look, toward the end of last year, I had some of the numbers, and I actually picked I did a story on an aspect from each team and from one team in each division a couple weeks ago, which would carry over from last year to this year. I picked the Saints defense in the NFC South as the one aspect that I think can be good and carry over. That's even with a poor run defense, because I think they improved there. So I do think that I like that unit. I want to see if they can get consistent pass rush. We want to see if Peyton Turner. It's funny. Anytime I mention the Saints defensive line, I forget Peyton Turner. because to me, I'm like, what is he?
People Saints fans get ticked off really when you talk about Peyton Turner. I actually like what I saw from him in the preseason. Again, it's preseason. We're not putting too much stock in the preseason, but I'd say he's one of maybe 3 or 4 players that actually made an impression on me. Kendra Miller, certainly one of the other ones that I say, okay, maybe this dude can actually contribute. I know we've said that before, but I think Peyton Turner, he's certainly going to get an opportunity to contribute this year, I think. I mean, is he ever going to live up to that first-round billing? Probably not, but, I mean, at least I think he's serviceable, and I think he can get in there and make some plays. I liked what I saw out of him.
I mean, he's a late first-round pick, so when you're picking that late, it's basically a second-round guy. But I could just say, I just remember, our draft guru, Dane Brugler, in his rankings. I mean, Peyton Turner was like 50-something.
Yeah.
So it was, and he's lived up to being 50-something, not 20-something. He
Payton likes to reach.
He's actually even lower. Like, he was not even 50-something, in terms of how he's produced in the NFL. But still, look, I think that unit is the strength. They need to create more takeaways, but that unit is certainly the strength. You like what you see in the secondary. If both linebackers, Demario Davis and Pete Werner, stay healthy, you bet you play 2. I mean, everybody knows that these days. So you like where you are. I mean, I think Alontae Taylor is an ascending player.
I do. I agree.
And so, I don't blame them from you wish you would have got something for Roby, but I get it. I mean, if you're going to move on. And it's just a name that he's still a good player. I would have figured he could be on a roster maybe week 2. I mean, just because he's a veteran guy and the roster maneuvering, so he could be on somebody's roster. He's good enough to still play, but that unit has got to be the strength. And here's the thing, if they're good, and the offense becomes the strength, that means the offense got really good.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of promise. Like, as I've been going through and doing like studies, like player trends, team trends throughout this offseason, the last 3 or 4 weeks, I have kind of gotten more bullish on the Saints than maybe I was before then. Before maybe say training camp started, and just kind of digging in and seeing what they did, small tweaks. Now I will say this. I want to see what these specialists can do. I mean, that's the roll of the dice. You're going with 2 unproven guys. What if the kicker all of a sudden gets the yips, and then you're Bermuda
Blake Groupie? No way, man.
I mean, he looks like he could still be kicking. He could be kicking for the Rummel Raiders tonight. I mean, that's what he looks like right now. So, it's
would anyone bat an eye if he went out and if he was wearing a Rummel jersey with his helmet off, by the way? Would anyone bat an eye along the sideline or the opposing sideline if Blake Groupie walked out there in a Rummel uniform?
I think he is kicking tonight for the Raiders. I'm just saying. I think he is.
Well,
he might be there for soccer season too. You never know.
Rummel's had some great kickers. All the barricades that worked at the paper, they all went to Rummel and were kickers there. That
was a Rummel kicker in the league for like 30 seconds last year, but it didn't pan out.
Didn't pan out. Well, no Shaw kickers in the league that I know of. So they just coach. They end up being.
None of the Josephs were kickers.
No, they weren't kickers. No. Didn't have any kickers at Shaw. All right. Well, look, we're going to come back to this at the end of the show because we're going to get a Saints-Titans prediction. But I do want to say that we talk about the defense, and they're obviously 24th against the run. If there was a weakness last year, it was that. They're going to get tested, and you talked about how you thought the run defense is improved. They're going to get tested, obviously, right off with Derrick Henry, the top-ranked. Derrick Henry is, to me, the number 1 back in the NFL. They are the 13th running the football last year, but they had a lot of issues. Derrick Henry is a beast, man. If you can stop him, you're going to be okay.
Oh, that's who they have. And look, there's a reason why they've drafted quarterbacks the last 2 years. It's Malik Willis and then Will Levis, and they're trying to get rid of Tannehill. This is his last ride, whether it's one of those 2 guys replacing him or somebody else. So I think they're, they know that they still have to have their bread and butter's got to be Derrick Henry. But, oh, man, how painful would it be if, say, Tyjae Spears went off?
Oh, man. Look, nothing against Kendra Miller, and I'm biased because, again, I covered Tyjae for 4 years at Ponchatoula, so I've always thought that he's going to have a long football career. So I don't want to see that. I hope Tyjae does well after he leaves the Superdome, but man, he very well could be, because I think he's a dynamic threat. I said he's a lot
Agreed.
in ways like Alvin Kamara in ways. He's not exactly the same back, but I think he's a similar kind of back and could have the same kind of success. So, I mean,
well, he's a more proven runner than, say, Kamara was at this point in his career.
Exactly.
He can really catch the ball. So,
they're drafted around the same spot.
Right, third round. But, that's the thing. Like, I think people who see Derrick Henry, Spears is definitely going to be sprinkled in. Like, because
no question.
You can use him multiple ways. So I think that's a weapon that we really, like, people are going to look at this game and say, oh, well, they've got DeAndre Hopkins, but it always seems like Tennessee always seems like the last stop for like veteran receivers, and then it's over with for them. So this is, I'm curious to see what Hopkins has, but if there's any fan base or city in the NFL city that would not sleep on Spears, I think it would be us in New Orleans.
I'll tell you, I said it on Bayou Bets yesterday. Here's your trivia question. Derrick Henry has been in the league will be his 8th opening day. You care to guess his average rushing yards on opening day, his previous 7 opening days?
Oh, I mean, I'm just throwing darts.
Yeah, just throw a dart.
110 yards.
You were way off, my friend. It's 56.3. And he's only scored 1 touchdown on opening day. So maybe he starts a little slow. I don't know. Charles says the Titans relentlessly run the ball. Saints have not shown much of a running game and are missing Kamara and maybe Miller. So it's Derrick versus Derrick, meaning Henry versus Carr. I don't think I agree with that. But we'll get to that in our prediction. We're going to come back to the Saints Titans because we got to wrap up the show within the next 11 to 12 minutes. So briefly, Larry, I want to talk overall about the NFL. I did want to spend a little more time, but we don't have the time. So I want you to pick a couple games out of this list that you find interesting this weekend that you're going to be looking for. These are just the Sunday afternoon games. Of this list, give me 2 games that you're really going to have your eye on.
I'm curious to see San Francisco, Pittsburgh, because there's the hype machine all around Kenny Pickett. I'm curious to see, and that defense has played well toward the end of last year. Pickett and George Pickens got better last year. And is Brock Purdy going to be the same guy? That defense is going to be good. Nick Bosa is back on the field, freshly paid. And I'll just go on the screen, the game above it. I'm curious to see Cincinnati, Cleveland, just because you're curious to see Deshaun Watson, if they can get that thing going. Nick Chubb can be Nick Chubb. Joe Burrow coming off the injury, freshly paid. To me, I'll just tell you this. We did some predictions for Super Bowl. I picked the Bengals to go to the Super Bowl.
You did.
And I picked them to actually win the Super Bowl. So this is a game that I feel like will be a tough test early for them. So I think that's, in terms of the early slate, those are the 2 games I'm really watching. I'm curious to see all the rookie quarterbacks because all 3 of the rookie quarterbacks are playing early. But in terms of matchups, those are the 2 matchups I'm really intrigued about in the early slate.
Brian says, Loomis, these are not my words. It's Brian Cavitt's word. Loomis is an idiot for picking Kendra Miller over Tajay Spears. Titans. He's taking the Titans in the points. We're going to get to our predictions on that in a minute. I think idiot's a little strong. That is definitely in my vocabulary. I try not to use it on this show. My wife said that's a bad word that I shouldn't use around our kids.
I guarantee you've used idiot on this show plenty.
I don't know. I try not to. I don't know. I definitely used to use it in Black and Gold.
Maybe even more harsh language.
What are you trying to say? I mean,
you can get salty, man. Come on.
I definitely get salty at times. The older I get, the saltier I get. There's one game on this list that I'm really excited about, and I'm with you on San Francisco, Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh, and I'm trying not to. If you're listening on the podcast version and not watching here on video, I'm trying not to give too much away because my best bets with Uncle Big Nick are coming up after this segment on the podcast, the recorded version. But so I like Pittsburgh. I'm on the hype train on that one. I agree. I think, and not just because of Kenny Pickett. I think George Pickens is going to be the next dynamic, what the hell, how does he make that catch kind of crazy receiver. I can't wait to see George Pickens' career in the NFL. I think it's going to be phenomenal. But Green Bay, Chicago is so interesting to me. Jordan Love against Justin Fields. I think that is going to be a fun game to watch because I think, frankly, we talked about it a little bit earlier and all the hype on Detroit. I think that Jordan Love, I think Green Bay is still going to be pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think they could be good. Here's the thing. I think their defense is going to be better than what people anticipate. And it really centers around Rashawn Gary coming back.
Yeah.
He is one of the best pressure players in the NFL. Missed half of last season. And down the stretch last season, their defense was playing very well. And the offense was not. And so, I'm curious to see, well, in that game, Christian Watson's been banged up. Curious to see how much he plays, if he plays. He's their number one guy. Can they sprinkle in that run game with Jones and Dillon? All eyes are going to be on quarterbacks, Justin Fields and Jordan Love. But also Chicago, I am bullish on Fields and DJ Moore. I think Moore is the weapon that they were really missing. His numbers were down last year, but it wasn't on Moore. It was erratic quarterback play. But he's been a good
Sam Darnold wasn't very good?
No, his numbers actually with Darnold late in the season were very good. It was before that. Like Moore was a top 10 receiver in some of the metrics I gauged in the last, say, 5 games. Darnold was a very good quarterback.
There's a reason
why. Here's the thing. There's a reason why San Francisco went and got Darnold as their backup, because they're looking at the same numbers that I was looking at last year. That he was good the last half of the season, and so it's move on from Trey Lance. They like Darnold better. He fits more of what Brock Purdy can do. So yeah, I'm going off on tangent, but I like DJ Moore as someone who can make Chicago more legitimate on offense and not have Justin Fields.
I see what you did there.
Nobody.
I see what you did there. More. He could be more. I
actually didn't mean to do that on purpose.
All right. Well, he's a poet and he didn't even know it. All right, Larry Holder, before we let you go, I'm gonna make you do 3 predictions. We're gonna bring back Pixie Dust Friday. 2 from this screen here. I want you to give me 2 predictions, and then we're gonna go back to Saints Titans and wrap it up with that. So give me your 2 predictions off this screen.
I will go. Let's see.
And I'm putting him on the spot, by the way.
You are putting me on the spot.
He did not know he was going to have to do this.
Now, here's the thing. I made picks already, and I'm trying to think, like, did I forget what picks I made? I can make some easy ones, but I don't want to make.
You got to use the spread. We're going to make you use the spread. You're not just picking a winner. So nothing's easy when you're talking about spreads. And by the way,
I'll take Philly. You're
going to take Philly -4 over New England.
Yeah, I love Jalen Hurts. I love their offense.
So do I.
I think that I picked Jalen Hurts as my MVP of the league this year. So I love all in on the Eagles.
So you don't like you don't like my Super Bowl pick then, because, and I have never announced it. This is the first time I'm announcing it publicly, but I like Dallas and Buffalo, and a rematch of what 30-something years ago. Dallas and Buffalo in the Super Bowl. Yeah,
that's pretty spicy.
Yeah, why not?
So, Dallas won't even win a division if you're looking at it from me. So
exactly, that's what I'm saying. So one of us is gonna be wrong. You got Philly -4 over New England. That's gonna be an interesting game, and it could be wet in Foxborough, so that could even make it more interesting. I love Jalen Hurts.
The other one. All right, I'll go. I will go. Let me look. Oh, I'm gonna take Denver.
Denver. Okay, I'm against you on both of those. I'm just going to tell you right now. You think that Sean Payton
I trust. Come on.
All right, Sean Payton, you trust. I'm going to leave my picks again after we are finished recording here. I'm going to add my monologue, and I'm going to add my picks. Uncle Big Nick and I are going to do, from here on out, do a Thursday show where we'll have nothing but picks. We're just going to talk about picks. That'll be our Thursday show. Won't be talking Saints football unless they're one of our picks. Won't be talking about LSU at Tulane unless it's one of our picks, but that's coming up on Thursdays from here on out. But he could not make it at a family emergency, so we're going to add it to the end of the regular audio podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, you can get Dattitude, and you can hear our picks. All right, back to the Saints. I will give you my Saints pick, but I'm going to let Larry go first. Saints, Titans, how do they start the season, Larry Holder?
I think they go 1-0. I think they've beefed up their run defense enough to kind of handle what they're going to throw at them. And I think Derek Carr is going to have a pretty good debut. So I think the Saints. You want me to give you a score, or
Yes,
obviously
sure.
because if we're talking spread,
yeah,
I will go Saints 24, Titans 20. So I'm picking them to cover. Is that what the
yes,
what the
that would be
betting
picking
range
them
is?
to cover 100,
Yes.
and you're picking the score to go over the 41. I'm just going to let everybody know that back when we were doing Black and Gold today, when Larry and I both said the same thing, it was really bad news for the team that we picked. But I don't know how you don't pick the Saints here. I know that the Sharps like the Titans. This number is going down. It was 3.5 at Caesar Sportsbook, by the way, which is the official odds partner of bet.nola.com. It was 3.5 earlier in the week. In fact, it's been 3.5 all off season, but it went down to 3. I still think the Saints cover. I mean, I can't go with the Sharps here. I think the Saints win, and I don't remember the exact score that I put in my column, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 22-17. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I think both teams are going to have to feel their way. So Chris says go Saints. He's not going to make a prediction, but he's just going to say go Saints, and we're okay with that. We're okay with that. So Larry and I are both on the same page here. Bad news for
Danger
the New Orleans
zone.
Saints. Yeah, exactly. Again, didn't work out before. We'll see how it works out in the future. Larry, I'm so glad that you are back with us on Fridays. We're going to do this again every Friday morning at 10 a.m. here on the Dattitude podcast on all these same social media channels and on my podcast on Dattitude, the audio version only. Larry, have a great weekend and enjoy watching your NFL Week 1.
Oh, it will be wild and woolly, I'm sure. It already has been, right?
Leave the tennis racket at home.
I can, thankfully. Man, my body needs a break. Trust me.
All right, we'll talk to you next Friday. And
well, you didn't tell everybody you ran into me at the tournament.
I did. I actually, people don't believe that I go to the gym because they just look at me.
True,
like,
he does go to. Should I tell him which gym so they can stalk you?
No,
all your
no,
Dattitude stalkers.
Yeah, all 3 of them. We don't need them showing up trying to get into the gym and messing up my long workouts.
Very regimented, I'm sure.
It's hard to get this shape. Trust me.
Oh yeah, real hard to get into Jim Derry shape.
All right, enough of our shape. We'll talk more next Friday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks, Larry.
You got it.
And thanks to everyone else out there. Again, go find the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Search for Dattitude. We'll see you next. Well, actually, Monday. We'll be back on Monday, not live, where you get your podcast. Until then, have a great weekend. Peace and love, my friends.